G'day guys, how's it going? Bit of a rush this morning. So I'm just here outside of the Queensland Museum. As you see in the background, a bit of art there near the Queensland Art Gallery. And then there's also the Gallery of Modern Art. Good places to be when you have the time. Making more time and looking at this fluffy grass that ironically has a wet floor caution sign on it. I really don't know what that's about. Anyway, I'm talking to you a bit about trust in the kink world, in BDSM. Now, when people go on about, factors and things that people would like, usually when people talk about submissives and that, saying, what's important in a dominant and all sorts of other stuff. Now, these things go both ways, like trust, honesty, they're all intertwined, because how can you trust someone if they're not honest with you? But then also keeping in mind there's varying different levels of trust, as I've said before. You could trust somebody to be there when the chips are down and you really need somebody, but you can't trust them to make a good cup of coffee or something like that. Things like that happen. Now, a lot of people have been hurt in the scene and they don't trust people, and there's always a common phrase of, you must earn my trust. Yeah, I kind of get that in one way, is that, a lot of people think trust is earned and therefore you give it as like a reward, but then you're constantly testing people, and a lot of the times people are testing them against a measure that the other person has no idea about. And a lot of people test these new people against old people's behaviour, and that's really unfair. I know I have problems with it sometimes, and people do things, and that it's very eerily similar, like people in my past have done similar things, sometimes exactly the same thing, different people, different context, but kind of the same in a general sense, and they go, oh, well, it's almost exactly like that. However, I know that they're a different person, so you really got to wonder about what you can and can't trust them with, and what brought this to that situation or that, but that's another thing. The thing is with trust is you've got to give a bit to get a bit, and you can't say you've got to earn that little bit, because how can they get your trust if you don't trust them with something? It's like saying to a child, like, I won't give you that scooter to ride on because I need to know I can trust you to ride on it safely. But how are you going to trust them to ride on it safely, particularly if they don't know how, if you don't give it to them to try in the first place? You've got to keep in mind that when you're learning new things, you'll make mistakes, you may hurt yourself, you may fall. Not only that, but it can be difficult for that child who's learning how to ride a scooter, saying, well, if you don't give me a scooter to learn how to ride, how am I going to learn how to ride it? So what am I going to do? I might actually have to lie or borrow somebody else's to show me how to do it. If you don't say, okay, can you go to someone and to get them to teach you how to ride? That's another option. But some will go, okay, well, I want to try and do it myself. I want to learn my own mistakes. So am I going to have to lie to my parents and do something, particularly if they say, I forbid you to ride that scooter or try and ride the scooter without me there, keeping an eye on you. And if you do something wrong, I'm going to take it off you. So they could just looking at it, and you might go, oh, well, it's taking too long. You obviously don't know how to ride it. Give it back to me. You're not going to have it. You can't ride a scooter ever again. It's like, but all I did was put my helmet on wrong. All I did was take a little bit more time looking at things, and maybe I put my foot on it wrong, or didn't take off in a way that you approved of, that really does erode confidence in the child or the person, confidence in yourself, and trust, your own judgment, but the trust that the child would have in you to actually have a honest opinion view, that is not, we're all biased in some way, but they would question the ulterior motive for that. Like, are you trying to keep them as a child forever for some reason, or do you really want them to learn? Do you really want them to have a scooter, or do you just want to have a scooter and say no, you can't? It's a bizarre thing. So for me, trust to some extent can be earned, but it needs to be given. Some measure of trust needs to be given, or you need to talk with people and figure out, you know, what is it that I know that they can do that I can trust them with. And then you find out that there are other things that they can do that you can trust them with. You just even have to talk to them, and you can find out that way. I mean, life isn't always just having to test people all the time. I would find that quite tedious, and I would lose patience very quickly, and have nothing to do with someone who is continually testing me, because I'm like, well, okay, you're testing me. Do you even know that I'm testing you as well? You know, it goes both ways, guys. So the fact that someone is not willing to release that, particularly in the kink world, where you release or you allow somebody in and you trust them, and it does get harder and harder as you get older and you have more experiences. I get that. It just means you've got to get each other to realize that the level of trust and what you are trusting them with is something important. There are people who I wouldn't trust to be on time. That does erode my trust in them to a large extent, because I cannot count on them to be there when I need them at a particular time, when I say I need you to be here this particular time, because they just don't understand the whole time concept. So I would not call on them to do anything at all. Or I could trust them to do something, but I couldn't trust them to do it without minimal drama. And if I don't want the drama, or if I can get it done easier with less drama somewhere else, I will do it, even if I have to pay for it. You know, I mean, it could be like, oh yeah, it's free. I could easily save like a couple $100 or $1,000 to it. Okay, yes, but you know what? That $1,000 is worth the less hassle. So, yeah, things like that. So, for trust, who do you trust with certain things in your life? Very different things. Like, as I said, you could trust people with certain things and not with others. It doesn't mean you don't trust them completely. It just means you go, well, okay, that's it could either be just them, and some people are, you know, inherently lazy and selfish, and you go, well, I couldn't trust them to do all this sort of stuff, but I'll trust them to be them and to have this sort of reaction in this way. Who do you trust with what? To what degree do you trust them? Everyone has been sort of had their trust betrayed. How have you gotten over that? How have you sort of let go and opened up again? And I know it's been difficult, particularly for people who've been hurt really badly. But then when you look at it, is that also stunting your own growth? Is that hindering your life and prosperity, the fact that you've held on to this mistrust for so long? Anyway, I was looking up here and there's like free food and wine festivals on. I am going to check that out, see if I can attend that. That could be interesting. Anyways, on trust in BDSM and kink. It's a hard thing to do, but take it easy, guys. Don't just leap in and go, I trust you with everything as well. You know, find your balance. Find your balance. Learn to trust. Take it one step at a time. Know the person. Talk to them, not just about kinks, about other people, about other things. Really get to know the person. That's how you develop trust, how you get to know that person, and if you can, trust them with certain things. Okay? Love you guys.